coffee, tea, and rum. One day the tonguing is done, take our leave and go. At a fair in the sun of town, her hair was blonde and her dress was brown. She made a whaler man come around.
You're watching Cumberland Rover. My name is Billy the Skid. Welcome back to Skid Files. I am out on the river once again, Cumberland River today, looking for skimboarding spots. So I'm about to head down the bay on the stand-up paddleboard and around a point to the north here, checking out the sandy banks of the Cumberland on Kentucky Lake. There's sandy areas, and the sandy areas always attract pleasure boaters and people that just want to go out and beach their pontoon boat and go swimming and stuff like that. But out here on the Cumberland, there's not as many sandy areas, and people generally just don't really care to go there for whatever reason. But I know of a couple places out here that might be pretty good skimboarding spots, but I don't really know. And as always, it's very dependent on the water level, which is just beginning to come down, but it still has a long ways to drop. And the further it drops, the more the shallow, flat slope of the banks is exposed in the areas where the banks do have a flatter slope. So don't really know what I'm gonna find today. So I'm gonna go ahead and load up my small boards on my big board, the stand-up paddle board, and head down the bay. Just got to the first concentration of sand on the banks out here near the main Cumberland Channel, and it's just way too much debris, not enough run up to go skimboarding, and the slope is too steep and the water too deep. So moving on to the next spot just around the corner. Hopefully it's a little better. Just got to the second spot, and it's kind of a letdown, unfortunately. It's been a while since I've been out on Barkley Lake, the lower Cumberland, during summer, and I'd forgotten how much, well, let's say how much less visibility there is compared to Kentucky Lake, the Tennessee River. Water's kind of dirty over here, really not so appealing. And not only that, but the slope is a little bit better to this beach compared to where I just was, but still not quite right. And the water is still a little bit too high. And there's also a ton of little shells all over the beach. So this really isn't ideal, but that's just kind of how it is trying to find skimboarding spots on a lake or a big river, the flooded Cumberland River. The one thing this beach has going for it is that it's in the shade. That is pretty nice, actually. Gonna be a hot day. The dog days of summer in late July. Well, you know what? The spot isn't great. It's really not even good, but I didn't paddle all the way out here, not to even get the board out. So I'm gonna see what I've got for this spot. That's really not a spot. Well, this spot was kind of a bust, but to quote Lemmy, sometimes the chase is better than the catch. So guess I'm moving on, and the hunt continues. The chase continues. I'm hiking in to check out a new beach. Just cutting through the woods, coming down a deep sandy draw, and it's a little bit further than I thought it was gonna be, but I hear boats up ahead, so I must be getting close. Just got to the beach, and once again, this spot is not quite ready, but it's getting there, and this is going to be a really nice spot when the water drops. Kind of figured out where the spots are going to be as the summer wanes and gets into fall. I may end up having to get some neoprene pants or something, because I think the fall is going to be the best skimboarding when temperatures are cool but not too cold. The water is going to be cold, but the important thing is the water is going to be low. And I'm going to have a lot of areas with a nice, flat, gentle slope of the bank. Just cut through the woods once again, and I'm on another little section of the beach, which is actually pretty populated. We got a bunch of pontoons and tri-toons out here, and this one is actually rideable right now. It's kind of funny. You can find the shallows by looking where the boats are not beached. So over here in the shady corner, it's nobody beached. Everybody's down that way where you hear the dog barking, and got this little corner to myself, and it's not bad. It's not great, but not bad. The sand is actually really nice here and free of rocks, so that is a good thing. I'm actually enjoying this spot. Old dude came over and kind of talked my ear off for a while. Guy from up north. We had some good conversations. Guess I'm just contributing to the beach vibe here. Guy walked away and said, "Keep on surfing." I'll go with that. I'm out here surfing on Kentucky Lake. All right, I've got one last challenge here at this beach before I hit the woods and get out of here. There's a sort of a sand gap down here. Gonna see if I can connect the two sandbars, make the gap. There's some tree roots in the way though, that makes it kind of challenging, and that's what it's all about. A little challenge. I think people were slightly weirded out when I came out of the woods with a backpack and a skimboard. But then I started riding the skim, and they're like, "Oh, okay, this guy's just here to surf the lake." Then I really got my beach cred when the old guy came over and started chatting to me. Everyone's like, I guess he knows him. So all right, there's the gap right there. Final challenge. All right, I'm hitting the woods and headed back to the truck. And that about does it for this episode of Skid Files. I'm just out here surfing Kentucky Lake. At least according to some random guy on the beach. Contributing to the beach vibe just by having something that kind of looks like a surfboard, but really isn't. Actually, you can surf these. You should Look that up on YouTube if you haven't seen it. Skimboard surfing. You've got to be really good to get out to waves though, but that stuff is cool. If you've enjoyed my skimboarding videos, there's good news. More are on the way. I've had a blast with this summer side project and intend to keep it going for a while. Well, at least until I get burnout or the water gets too cold. In the meantime, if you're new to the channel, you may want to check out my boat building videos. That's mainly what I do here, build and sail small wooden boats. I even have plans available for my designs. Most of my designs are bare bones simple and very beginner friendly. Plans for my 12-foot solo P-row and 16-foot pelican punt are linked in the description of this video. Thank you for your support and thanks for watching.